Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It's going to be tough, but, you got to address that early. You got to make sure they understand the goal in mind is to win. Our football team understands that winning makes them feel pretty good.
I know they hadn't scored a lot of points, but they force you to be. It's a different type of a discipline this week.
Good evening. Welcome into Sports Talk here on the South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary and the Professor Tom Hayes holding it down here in our downtown Columbia studios. Phil Kornbluth will be joining us momentarily. He's on the road going up to Clemson for tomorrow night's game by way of Atlanta. So he'll be in our Sports Talk satellite studio there in Atlanta, joining us momentarily there. At the Open, you heard USC head coach, interim head coach, but head coach nonetheless, Sean Elliott, who will be running out of the tunnel 2001 as a head coach for the first time in his life, a guy that grew up in Camden, played football there, played football at Appalachian State, coached at Appalachian State, and has been coaching at USC now for the past several seasons, and now he will be the head coach. So kind of a dream come true for him, but that dream can quickly turn into a nightmare if they don't take out Vanderbilt. Even with everything that's happening, I think South Carolina fans are going to go into that stadium tomorrow expecting a win.
I would believe. I think they want to see a more spirited football team, for one thing.
Are they going to play music during the whole game like they do at the practices that I've been to this week?
No, I think that's not allowed. Cowbells are allowed, but music throughout the game is not allowed.
Is Sean Elliott going to dance in the locker room if the Gamecocks win? And can we see a vine of it on Twitter?
No.
South Carolina, they're trying to make changes. I am very intrigued. I mean, this is an intriguing matchup as much as you can say for South Carolina. Vanderbilt, two of the worst teams, not two of the worst teams, the two worst teams in the Southeastern Conference right now. You wouldn't think there'd be a lot of intrigue, but there is, because I want to see G.A. Mangus. I want to see what this offense is all about. It's still going to have shades of Steve Spurrier in terms of what it's built around, because G.A. Mangus played for Spurrier, coached under Spurrier. That's one of his guys, but he has his own style. And I asked him this week, is it going to look different? And he said, ask me next week and we'll find out. But he said that the principles are there, but he has things that he likes to do. Sean Elliott has things that he likes to do. They have Perry Orth, who's not a great runner, but they say he will run the zone read with Perry Orth. Connor Mitch is waiting in the wings. He's been throwing it around. Will we see him tomorrow? There's so many different dynamics that we're going to be checking out. And just how does this team respond to everything that's happening?
I think probably the thing that people want to see, and we know the strategy is different. Steve Spurrier always had the feeling that he wanted to look and see where the defense was and then change the play and keep changing the play when the defense shifted out. You can't do that. I want to see if they go early into the shot clock. I'll call it the shot clock. I know it's the play clock.
The check with me.
We want to see what happens.
That drove, as Gamecock fans would groan with 5, 4, 3, snap it. They always would snap it or call timeout. But, yeah, I think there'll be a lot more tempo out there. So we'll break that down and more. Kornbluth coming up. Sports Talk just getting started. We got a busy show for you on Fridays, as always. We'll talk some high school football with David Shelton coming up at 25 past the hour. At the bottom of the hour, our football filibuster with the governors. Well, just one governor tonight. Jim Hodges will be joining us. He's back in town. I'm told that Governor Beasley is on his way to Russia. I haven't confirmed this, but I think he's going to play golf with Vladimir Putin. Or maybe they're going to go horseback riding, shirtless.
Shirt off.
Who knows? But he's heading to Russia, so he's unable to join us. I think cell service is pretty bad near the Kremlin, I'm told. So I believe we have his picks, so we'll be able to pass along those picks. But we will have Governor Hodges joining us at the bottom of the hour as well. And Corn has joined us from our Sports Talk satellite studio in the Peach State in Hotlanta, the ATL, where Corn is no doubt hanging out with the crew of Outcast later tonight when he gets off the show. Andre 3000 and Corner.
Everyone. Good evening. How are you?
We're out.
Yeah, I'm not in Kiev with Governor Beasley, who is, like you probably mentioned, I'm sure you made a Putin joke in there a time or two, but that's where he is. He's on his way to Russia. But before leaving, he's so dedicated and he's so excited about having a chance to win the competition that he has already sent me his picks and his individual commentary for each game. So,
wow.
I will play the role. Yeah, I'll play the role of Governor Beasley when we have Governor Hodges with us here in a little bit. Yeah, it's the lovely granddaughter's birthday weekend, so we're in Atlanta for that. But I tell you what, one thing I don't understand, coming through Georgia, making great time, in great shape to make it to my broadcast center, and they close I-20 one lane for 4 or 5 miles. Traffic backs up, of course, forever, hardly moves. You go the entire distance, you don't see one bit of road work taking place. You don't see a worker. You don't see a shovel. You don't see a drill, nothing. So my suggestion to the Georgia DOT is when you shut a lane of traffic on I-20 on Friday afternoon for road work, at least have somebody there doing some work so the motorists will feel like there's a reason I'm moving 2 miles an hour for a half hour.
We've had a lot of
a
lot of complaining on Sports Talk this week about the roads in the greater tri-state area, train traffic, construction, etc.
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Shoot! Oh, here it goes. I know what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do.
Who the Dodgers starting in the NLC is? As it turns out, you only played 5 more games than my team played. You only won 2 more games after the season than my team won. So it wasn't a great year for the Dodgers either. Anyway, on to more.
One had a better year than the other, at least.
Want to get into, while we have a few minutes before David Shelton joins us, I want to get into we haven't really talked X's and O's about the games this weekend. Boston College and Clemson and South Carolina and Vanderbilt. And, when analyzing this thing, Clemson, a 15.5-point favorite, and Boston College's defense. I know they haven't played great people, though they held Florida State to 14 points. You have to raise your eyebrows about that when analyzing Boston College. Can they keep Clemson's offense not necessarily in check, but can they slow them down a little bit as they have done everybody they've played this year?
I don't think they can. But I will warn Clemson of this. When a defense knows their offense is not playing well, they try to give them a short field. So ball security tomorrow will be important for the Tigers, because I have a feeling that Boston College will be raking at the football every chance they can get, or lay a helmet on the elbow or right in that pocket where the ball is. So I would think Clemson holds on to the football, no turnovers, they'll have no problem.
But, Clemson's offense, it had the quick start against Georgia Tech and K-Mac. You were there. I mean, they buried Georgia Tech early with the big play and then think Georgia Tech had a turnover. Clemson went down and scored again. It was 14-0 and pretty much on cruise control from there. But I think about Louisville, only a 7-point win on the road against Louisville. They had some turnover issues there. I don't know. I mean, have we seen Clemson's offense at its very best yet, and will we see that tomorrow night?
Oh, I mean, they had 500 yards against Georgia, 300 through the air, over 200 on the ground. So that's a pretty good day at the office in terms of your offense. I think they'll take that every day, and I think they'd take it twice on Sunday even. To me, the offense has not played its best. I don't think there's any question about that, and I don't think the offense has played at a level that many of us thought they would going into the season, especially with Deshaun Watson staying healthy, and I think getting healthy. He said after the game against Georgia Tech, you know, I feel a little bit better every game. And I think we forget sometimes that this guy is coming off major knee surgery less than a year ago. And he's wearing a brace out there, and he's still trying to get back into game shape. He didn't really even run the ball until the Louisville game when he ran for 50 yards. They're starting to call those quarterback draws more. You saw the first play against Notre Dame where he had that big play that kind of got them going, the opening play of the game, the big draw play that set up their first touchdown. So I think they will get it rolling. This is a good Boston College defense, but as good as their defense is, their offense is that much worse. They pitched. They gave up 3 points and lost. That's hard to do.
Here's the question, O'Corn. Because we know you have two young fledgling co-coordinators who are kind of playing it kind of easy. If you're Deshaun Watson, do you have the keys to the car to turn to the coordinator and say, look, you know, guys, can I ask a question? Yes, you made Deshaun. Can we open it up? In other words, maybe it's time for the quarterback to suggest, look, I know y'all guys are new time coordinators, but let's open it up.
Well, they did start throwing the ball down the field more, and I think Deion Kane's a guy that really seems to be coming into his own a little bit, maybe feeling a little bit of the Mike Williams role that they're missing. And Mike Williams, Dabo did give an update on him on Tuesday. He doesn't expect him to play this season. He says he's going to play football again, but they are not expecting him to play this season. So Tiger fans that think that he might be back sometime soon, you might want to just put him on the shelf and see what he's going to do in terms of the NFL, or if he's going to come back to Clemson. So Deion Kane is going to play perhaps a vital role, and he caught some big passes down the field and looks to be kind of gaining confidence. And Ray McLeod's getting a little more involved every week, and I think it's all part of the plan by the end of this month to have those two guys fully indoctrinated and immersed into this offense. And those are two big weapons out there that you throw in with Artavis Scott and Jordan Leggett at tight end and Deshaun Watson. Wayne Gallman, the Wayne train, has been running all the time, as they call it, the number 9 train there at Clemson. He seems to be getting it going. So I mean, if they find themselves offensively and the defense keeps playing at that level, look out.
Well, that's what their hope is. And I mean, they've got a few more weeks to go here before their next game of the century, and that's going to be Florida State on November 7th, I believe that is, in the Valley. And for all intents and purposes, if things continue the way they're going right now, I mean, that's going to be the game for the ACC Atlantic Division and probably the chance to be in the playoff. The winner will still have to win the ACC championship game against, you know what? I got a feeling it's going to be North Carolina coming out of that division. And who would have thought that back in the heat of August in Charlotte?
Well, I'll say this. North Carolina, and I'll say what Steve Spurrier said after that game. They got outplayed. They were very fortunate to win that game. North Carolina threw an interception in the end zone on their opening drive. They had a couple of turnovers in the red zone in the second half in the end zone. So North Carolina should have won that game, and that is not a bad team. No. I thought North Carolina would win that. I picked them to win that game going into it. They have almost all their starters back, and their defense under Gene Chizik has shown a lot of improvement. So that doesn't really shock me. In that division in the ACC, it's really, really bad.
And let's face it, Clemson now can watch other dominoes fall, because tomorrow, what you have, LSU in the breach playing Florida. They're in the top 10. Michigan State playing tomorrow. So 2 dominoes are going to fall right there.
But one moved up. Stanford, with that win last night, certainly helped itself. All right, a break. David Shelton coming up. Be right back. Well, thank goodness, I think we finally have a Friday night for high school football in South Carolina where the weather is going to be nice. Beautiful day around the state means a beautiful night for high school football on this Friday night. And we welcome in the most beautiful person we know in high school football, David Shelton of the High School Sports Report and the Charleston Post and Courier. Might be a little chilly out there in some parts of the state, David, but no rain.
This first Friday night, we've actually had football weather. It's supposed to get a little nippy down here in Charleston, in the 50s. And here in the upstate, it'll be a little cooler up there. But, yeah, you're right. First, really, without a threat of rain. I mean, every Friday night there's either rained or been a threat of rain, and it is not a cloud in the state of South Carolina tonight.
That's good. That's good. Now, checking the schedule, I see the Midlands in particular. A lot of good matchups around the Columbia area tonight, especially that two-way matchup over in Batesburg-Leesville, BL and Abbeville. That should be a classic.
Yeah, and they've had some classic ones over the years. You can recall we've been doing the scoreboard show and had live reports from Billy Baker from the Abbeville Batesburg-Leesville game. Every time I hear they're playing, I think of that night where he called the field goal and didn't say if it was good or not. But
yes.
yeah, he just started yelling and nobody knew if he made it. But that's a big game in there, and then the Lexington River Bluff game, and two budding rivalry, but something that will become a huge rivalry over the next couple of years. But that should be an entertaining football game as well.
Yep. What else do you like around the state tonight?
It's kind of it's not an exciting night in terms of matchups. I think down here in the Low Country, Timberland and Lake Marion, two top 10 teams in AA, they're playing over at Lake Marion. Lake Marion's undefeated, never beaten Timberland, and Timberland's starting to get some of their players back. So I look for Timberland and Lake Marion to put on a really good show. And then, really in Region 7 4A, Cane Bay is hosting Goose Creek tonight. And most people feel the winner of this game will probably have the inside track to win the region title. And Cane Bay coming off a big win over one of their rivals, Stratford, last week. And Goose Creek's a team they've never beaten. So I'll be at that game. I look for there to be a big crowd there and look for a pretty good game there.
Okay, David, we'll look to talk to you tonight during the high school scoreboard, and we appreciate it. Have yourself a good time tonight at your football game, and we'll catch up with you around 10 o'clock. All right, David Shelton from the High School Sports Report, and don't forget the high school scoreboards tonight beginning at 10 o'clock, 10, 10:30, and 11 p.m. We give you more scores in 5 minutes than most shows give you in 2 hours. We'll have scores from all across the state. The early show will have a bunch of in-progress scores, and then we'll have final scores for you in bulk beginning at 10:30 and 11 o'clock. Check it out on our stations around the state. You can also check it out on our website. We post the reports there as well, sportstalksc.com. So there's a lot of ways that you can get updated on high school scores here on a Friday night in South Carolina. And our high school report brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates, Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you've received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. The football filibuster, Jim Hodges, coming up in a moment. It is time for the most important segments of the week here on Sports Talk, the football filibuster with Governors Jim Hodges and David Beasley. Governor Beasley is having borscht tonight with President Putin in Russia. So I am sitting in for Governor Beasley. He has sent me his picks plus his commentary on each game that I will share with the audience and with Governor Hodges as we welcome Governor Jim Hodges, who is not in Russia, but he's, I don't know, he's been in places very similar, I'm sure. Governor Hodges, how are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, although I thought Kiev was probably somewhere over in Lee County, and I was really surprised to hear it someplace else.
Well, I feel really good about our national security knowing that Governor Beasley is over there exchanging cigars with Putin or whoever he's meeting with over there.
Well, he might become a bargaining chip. We've got to worry about that.
I feel really safe. I feel really safe. All right, here's what we got. Now, look, see, Governor Beasley, he's having such a good year. He was 7-3 last week. That might have been his best week ever. He's comfortable enough to leave the country off a 7-3 week. He's 31-29. You guys are tied, Governor Hodges. You were 5-5 last week. So, you know what? We're hitting the second half of the season, and it's a dogfight.
Well, look, he did so well that Steve Spurrier had to resign. That's how shaken he was with what happened last week. So I think we're going to have to do a little better this week.
Well, let's get at it and see what you got. Here we go. I will play the role of Governor Beasley, and you'll play you, and we'll see what we got here. Here we go. Southern Cal at Notre Dame, and since Governor Beasley is always the loser here, he'll lead off, even though you guys are tied. Governor Beasley would say he's going to take Notre Dame is laying 6.5. He's going to take Southern Cal and the points because the Trojans will come out fired up and keep the game close. Governor Hodges.
Well, they are not going to have any beer in the locker room at Southern Cal this week, and the players are really upset about that. So I'm going to take Notre Dame.
For the kill.
That's just cold.
Oh, nice.
That's just cold, Governor Hodges.
Nice.
Cold. All right, Wake Forest at North Carolina. Governor Beasley, 17 points the Tar Heels are laying, and he's taking the Tar Heels because Wake will play scrappy but struggles against any team that can play offense.
You know, I just think that's too many points. I'm going to take Wake Forest. It's sort of a rivalry game, and that's what 16 or 17 points. I'll take Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, okay. Virginia Tech at Miami. Governor Beasley's taking Virginia Tech. He said he wants the 4.5 points that Miami is giving, so he's taking Virginia Tech. He believes Miami will win, but Tech's defense will keep it to a field goal. Governor Hodges.
And I think after last week's game that Miami's going to come out strong and win it by at least 6 points. So I'm going to take Miami.
Miami, okay, you got them. Let's go to Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. And let's see, it's Georgia Tech laying 3.5 at home. Governor Beasley wants Pittsburgh. Tech is struggling to get big plays out of the running game, so he wants Pittsburgh. Governor Hodges.
I'm going to take Tech. We're really on the opposite side this week. They're coming back home, and I just don't think Pittsburgh's really that good. So I'll take Tech.
Think Tech. You got to figure at some point Georgia Tech's going to get it going again.
Oh, they're bad.
Maybe it'll be this weekend.
They got the talent. I think that they're going to get it going this week.
All right, Louisville at Florida State. Seminoles laying 7.5 at home. Governor Beasley, he wants the points. After big win last week, Florida State will win but come out slowly. Ooh, Governor Hodges.
I think Florida State's actually going to win that one by 10 points. So I'm going to take Florida State.
So you guys are have differed on all of the first 5 games. I like it. That means there'll be a major shakeup in the standings next week. Now, Governor Hodges, you shall lead us. Missouri at Georgia. Georgia favored by 16. No Chubb. Moving forward for the Bulldogs, coming off a game in which they blew a big lead in Knoxville. What say you?
Yeah, they're coming out angry, and Missouri clearly is down this year. I'm going to pick Georgia. I think they're going to win this one big.
Georgia big. Governor Beasley is taking Mizzou. He wants the points. Georgia will win, but 16 is too many points. This is good. This is good. Florida at LSU under the lights at Tiger Stadium, Death Valley. Plenty of clean seats from last week. Many seats weren't sat in, so no trouble getting the stadium ready this time. And the Tigers are favored by 7.5 over the Gators, who are going to their backup quarterback, Governor Hodges.
I think that Florida will keep it under 7.5. I know they're playing a backup quarterback, but their defense is pretty stout. So I'm going to take the points. I think LSU is going to win, but I'll take Florida.
Mm-hmm. You and the governor agree there. He believes Florida will keep LSU one-dimensional and keep the game low-scoring. So he, too, wants the 7.5 points and Florida. We move to what should be a dynamic game at College Station. Alabama at Texas A&M. The home team is getting 4. Governor Hodges.
I think 4 is too many points. They are playing at home. Alabama has certainly played well recently, so I'm going to take A&M.
You want A&M and you want the points at home.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Governor Beasley, he wants Alabama. Texas A&M hasn't faced a defense like this yet, he says. So he's taking Alabama. All right, to the locals. Vanderbilt at Steve Spurrierless USC. Guys, the first time in 10.5 seasons that Steve Spurrier will not be walking the sideline for a USC football game. Hard to believe, but it is fact. Gamecocks at home, favored by 2.5. Governor Hodges.
Yeah, we're going to miss him. I think he's a terrific coach. Has meant a lot to our football program. I think that they're going to be, that Vanderbilt is somebody they ought to beat, and I think that the kids will be fired up for this game. So I'm going to take the Gamecocks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Governor Beasley's doing the same thing. He says the game will be ugly at times, but Gamecocks will pull it out, which takes us to Boston College at Clemson. The Tigers looking to stay unbeaten, favored at home by 15.5 points. Is that too much of a spread for the Tigers to deal with, Governor Hodges?
Well, the BC lost to Missouri 3-0 last week. Lost to Wake Forest 3-0 at home last week. No, it's not too many points. I'm going to take Clemson.
You want Clemson, even though BC's got the number 1 defense in the country, huh?
Well, BC can't. If they can't score on Wake Forest, they're not going to score on Clemson. So, can Clemson score 3 touchdowns on BC? Absolutely, they can at home. So, I'm going to take Clemson.
All right, Governor Beasley concurs. Boston College just won't be able to score against Clemson, he says. All right, so there you go. You guys agree on 3 games, Clemson, USC, and Florida. Any amendments on your side there, Governor Hodges?
I don't think so. I'm happy with my pick.
Okay. I just got a text in from Governor Beasley. He was listening to us via the what's the equivalent of the I forgot the name of the CIA in Russia.
KGB.
KGB.
Yeah, the KGB. That's right. He was listening to us through KGB sources, and he's happy with everything too.
Okay. Well, good. We'll see how he does, and I hope he has a safe trip there and take your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Governor Hodges. We'll talk to you next week.
You bet. See you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Jim Hodges, the football filibuster. Governor Beasley's having a great year for him. 31-29, 7-3 last week. Red hot. We'll update the Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge results here coming up in a little bit. We had an interesting week last week with our panel. Let's see. Matt, the newsman. Boy, what a talent he is for a guy who had his hands full with the flood and all the major news stories. He manages to go 9-1 with his football picks. I think he does his best picking under pressure. That's what he was dealing with last week. Lee Sterling, our Sterling picks are coming up next here on Sports Talk.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put them in the field and let them fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no stamps. And if you don't got money, you won't scoop a honey. If you don't got cash, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler. Bet the house on the young and then we got paid.
Show them the next item up a bit.
Time for our Sterling picks on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. We welcome in from Paramount Sports, Lee Sterling, and it's a big weekend for Lee and Paramount Sports because he's got his second 40 to 50 unit selection of the year for this weekend. He's also going to have at least two other 30 to 35 unit plays on Saturday alone, possibly a 35 unit play on Sunday. Biggest weekend for releases for the entire season for you, Lee. I know you're excited about what you've got to offer up this weekend.
Yeah, we are. As you know, we don't have a whole lot of big selections. We're very conservative. In fact, I rate my games from 10 to 50 units. We've only had one 40 to 50 unit selection this year. That was the Navy game about a month ago, and that one easy 45-21. We have our second 40 to 50 unit play of the year. This will be a 45 unit selection, and we're combined 27-3 documented on these plays over the last 6+ seasons. And we've got some, I think it looks like we're going to have two other big college 30 to 35 unit releases and an NFL 35 unit release. So most units we've ever released on a weekend, we're excited about it. We found some games with the right situation, coaching matchups, injuries, everything's falling into place. If they want to get it, go to ParamountSports.com. Have a 3-week trial package from now through Monday, November 2nd. Just $247 if you use coupon code SAVE50, ParamountSports.com, or call 800-400-9741.
All right, a 1-2 week last week, but some great games to look at this weekend. Let's begin with Alabama and Texas A&M. Crimson Tide laying 4 in College Station.
Yeah, and this could be the one and only shootout of the 4 games that we're talking about. Alabama's going to try to run the football. Texas A&M linebacking core not very good. So A&M's going to have to put some guys in the box and use some zone blitzing schemes to keep Alabama from just running the ball right down their throat, and got to avoid these 12 and 15 play drives and keep their defense off the field. Now, A&M does have some advantages with Kyle Allen. He's had 3 straight 300-yard passing weeks. And the guy that beat Alabama, Chad Kelly, threw the ball also. And A&M's coming off a bye. Bama's been playing some tough games at Georgia, against Arkansas. I think it's a situational play, and I think A&M's going to find a way to win in a barn burner here, 31-30.
All right, but so take A&M. Take A&M in the points.
Take A&M, yeah, plus the 4 to 4.5.
Take A&M in the points. Gotcha. LSU and Florida, another terrific matchup. I hate that Florida doesn't have their number 1 quarterback, but they can still be pretty competitive with the backup. LSU laying 9 at home against the Gators.
Yeah, a tough spot here for the Gators. The way to beat Florida, you got to run the football. Tennessee did it. They had over 5 yards a carry and 250 rushing yards when they played them. They were just a play away from winning that game, and LSU runs better than Tennessee. So this Florida defense, I think, is probably going to wear down. Treon Harris, a nice backup, good change of pace guy. He can move the pocket, very good at improvising, but I don't know if you want him as a guy, especially if you have to play from behind here. I like LSU to pull away late here and win and cover 28-13.
All right, how about the Gamecocks and Vanderbilt minus Steve Spurrier, favored by 3 at home?
Well, I don't like the way Steve Spurrier stepped down. I think it would have been more fitting for him to finish the year, but sometimes that's Steve Spurrier. He always walks to the beat of a different drummer. Yeah, I just think here the best unit of the 4 units on both teams is Vanderbilt's defense. And their offense is even showing some signs of life with freshman running back Ralph Webb, sophomore wide receiver Trent Sherfield. He has 34 catches. And as long as Vandy's doesn't turn the ball over more than 2 times, I think Vandy's the right side. I think Vandy's going to win this game here 23-17.
All right, give me a quick take on Clemson laying 15 at home against Boston College.
I don't see how Boston College is going to score here, guys. Their offense is dreadful. Clemson's defense is going to get some takeaways here. Clemson, 20-0.
20-0. And your game of the week in the NFL, Seattle favored by 6 against the Panthers.
Panthers are trying to get to 5-0. We're going to find out if they can do it. It's going to have to be up in Seattle, hostile environment. First 10 callers get it for free, 800-400-9741. Or check us out online and buy picks, ParamountSports.com.
Thank you, sir. Lee Sterling, our Sterling Picks. And again, it's a big weekend at Paramount Sports with his second 40 to 50 unit selection of the year for this weekend. We'll be back. Okay, let's give you the recruiting update for tonight here on Sports Talk. First in football, defensive lineman Naquan Jones from Evanston, Illinois, who looked hard at South Carolina back in the summer but committed to Michigan State in June, still plans to take an official to USC. The Gamecocks have not stopped recruiting him since he committed to Michigan State. He had planned to come in last weekend for the LSU game, but at first he got sick and then the game got moved. He visited USC back in February, and recruiter Deke Adams has kept up the contact with him. That's why he's never lost interest. He's also been talking to Everett Sands. He said even with Spurrier leaving, he still wants the opportunity to come down and see everything once again in Columbia. And he said that he's in the process of setting his official visit with Michigan State. He might take one to Ole Miss as well. He calls his commitment pretty strong, has a good relationship with the coaching staff at Michigan State. And if anything pops up, he'll see how things go on the visit. He said, I wouldn't say I'm 100% committed, but he's kind of close. Also still hearing from Nebraska, along with USC, Ole Miss, and Michigan State. And to turn him away from the Spartans, he said that you have to see how the rest of USC season goes and see how everything works out towards the end. He does want to get the opportunity to meet the new coach. He did meet Spurrier when he visited USC earlier in the year. Now in basketball, we had Rich Taylor on last night talking about Seventh Woods, and did not give you a whole lot of detail about his visit to USC from Woods' standpoint. From his interview with Seventh yesterday, Seventh told him that South Carolina was a great time. It's my hometown. A lot of stuff I didn't experience, like the campus, the new dorms. Had an outstanding time with the team and the players. It was a great time in my hometown. But he also enjoyed his other official visits as well. And he says, I felt perfect with all three teams. He says that's really a key part of my decision, having that feeling of comfort. No silent commitment to any school or anything like that yet. And he says he's still wide open for everybody. He's built a relationship with all three coaches. They're all great guys. Yesterday, USC assistant coach Lamont Evans and North Carolina head coach Roy Williams was at his practice. Frank Martin couldn't make it because he had to run practice because Matt Figger was up in Philadelphia meeting with Sadiq Keita. Keita has taken official to USC and Temple. He's going to look at Penn State and Providence as well. The Temple visit, he said, went well. It's in his hometown, and he's in regular contact with Figger. And like I said, Figger was up there yesterday. Everyone, he said, is pretty much even with him at this point. No timetable. And this weekend, 6'10" DeJuan Hewell of Miami will visit USC officially. He's been to Miami and to Florida State the last 2 weekends, and he likes Frank Martin. Says he coaches like his high school coach coaches him. Not sure if he will sign early. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
All right, we are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, hour number 2 on a busy Friday night. Phil Kornbluth in Atlanta, personal reasons. K-Mac and Professor Tom Hayes back in Columbia, professional reasons, along with the State Man, who's back in Columbia as well because he really has nowhere else to be. I will be at Clemson tomorrow night covering the Tigers and BC, and K-Mac will be at USC. Along with the Pro, I'm sure Pro will be heading over to the stadium tomorrow after he makes his annual trip through the fairgrounds to get a Krispy Kreme hamburger. And he'll be joining K-Mac over at Williams-Brice.
Can I leave? If
Game?
it gets bad, I might do my sports talk at the stadium from the fair. I might go over there and
that's cool.
Mix it up
the Ferris wheel.
I might do a little Periscope from the fair tomorrow, depending on how the action goes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Coming up, the full Monty on NASCAR. We'll have that in our next segment. Citadel coach Mike Houston coming up at the bottom of the hour. Big game for them coming up after a big win last weekend. Let's get to our Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge competition, which after this past weekend, Matt the Newsman, a 9-1 week. Whoa. He now leads at 37-23. He is on fire. Well, he is a Cubs fan, so I think he's riding the coattails of the Cubbies. 9-1 for him last week. 6-4 Pro. You're 33-27. In second place, however, is Kev Cohen from the Point Radio in Columbia. 4-6 last week, but 35-25 overall. And State Man, you're 32-28, 5-5 last week. K-Mac, you are 29-31, a loser just like the Dodgers, 3-7 last week. I improved last week to 4-6.
Who's got the better record?
But I'm at 27-33.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I can still say.
Now, I remind you, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So, looking ahead, we are all taking Notre Dame and laying the points. North Carolina, I've got the Heels. Pro as well. K-Mac 2. The others are taking Wake. Miami and Virginia Tech. K-Mac's the only one to take the Beamers.
Yes. Go Beamers. I saw Travis Haney say Shane Beamer was a candidate to be the coach at South Carolina. So, hey, I'm all in with the Beamers.
Georgia Tech and Pitt. I've got Tech. Kev Cohen's got Tech. Florida State across the board against Louisville, except for Kev Cohen, who's taking the Cardinals. Georgia and Mizzou. A State Man taking the Dogs. I'm taking the Dogs. Everybody else has got Mizzou for some strange reason. I'm the only one taking Florida against LSU. We all pick Alabama to do its thing against A&M. Gamecocks. We all are taking the Gamecocks, except State Man's taking Vandy and Newsman is taking Vandy. We have all taken Clemson and laying the 15.5 against Boston College. Best of luck to me. Worst of luck to the rest of the crew. We'll see how it turns out. NASCAR up next here on Sports Talk.
What if?
Time for the full Monty Dutton joining us to talk all things NASCAR. Always a pleasure to talk to Monty. And, all the NASCAR talks we got kind of swallowed up by, well, I guess if we want to do the NASCAR tie-in, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s favorite college football coach retired this week. Or, no, let me correct myself, resigned. I got to follow the head ball coach's orders. So maybe we can tie the NASCAR connection in that way, Monty.
That's a little bit far-fetched, I think, but because Dale Jr. also likes the Tar Heels, but I think that Dale Jr. probably shares the sorrow of all Southerners at Spurrier. I'm going to miss Spurrier just because he amuses me, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I've noticed now in the days following that, even people at Clemson and Georgia, those fans are starting to share their favorite Spurrier quotes. I mentioned Dale Jr. just because I know those two have hung out some before. Jr. actually tweeted his farewell bid to him on his Twitter feed earlier this week. I know those two kind of had a relationship. So I don't know that he was a Gamecock fan per se, but I think Dale Jr. was a pretty big Steve Spurrier fan.
Yeah, they are those are two men who have a lot of relationships, you know. The only time I've ever been around Spurrier was when he was at racetracks, both when he was at Florida at Daytona and then at Charlotte or Darlington as USC head coach.
Did he have a shirt on when you saw him down at Daytona?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't hang with him. I just sat at a press conference, you know.
Yeah,
they often have people like Frank Beamer come by, you know, Martinsville or Richmond or something like that. It's not unusual. Football coaches often like racing.
Yeah, I could see, especially here in the South with the SEC and ACC coaches. But that is
you know the first big Gamecock race fan was?
Who was that?
Well, in my memory, it would have been Bob Markham.
Okay, that's
I think he like took part with a pit crew at Darlington back in the early years when I was first covering racing full time. Which, of course, was back when they had solid rubber tires. You know.
So he was down there getting dirty.
Well, he was a real. I mean, you know, there's a lot of guys who they come around and they say that you know, they act like they're fans, but you know, the fact of the matter is being a coach or the manager of the Atlanta Braves or whoever it is, those people have pretty hectic lifestyles to begin with. But Markham was, you know, I thought he was a really big racing fan.
Want to get your thoughts on the race first in Charlotte last week, because I know you did a column on you said how you missed the old times in Charlotte, and then the passing that you miss in Charlotte now.
Well, I think that there is hope because this was also a week in which NASCAR had a big press conference about next year's rules, and there's going to be a base set of rules, and they're going to try to coordinate them with the tire compounds in a more scientific fashion they have in the past. But they're basically going to have as a base the rules that were in place at Darlington, which was an outstanding race, and there was also a good race at Kentucky. So I think there's hope, but last week's race, you know, there's too many things right now where I think that in lieu of genuine racing excitement, they throw in all of the implications of the chase. And for somebody who likes genuine racing excitement, you know, the intermediate tracks, like the one this weekend in Kansas, are not what they once were.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you like the package. I know we've talked about this before, and after Kentucky, and it did work out well in Darlington. So this is a rule that you, Monty Dutton, are endorsing.
Well, I don't think you know. I would not pretend to be an expert on these things, and in our society right now, we have a big problem with the last people that we ever ask for something are the experts. You know, whether it's about almost anything, we don't trust people who are like scientists and things. So we just basically say, well, I don't care. I just don't believe it. So that having been said, I do know what my eyes tell me. And I do feel like that the racing was much better. And I would have thought it would. I mean, you know, sometimes you can be logical and what makes sense doesn't actually work because the problem is more complicated. But this was one of those rarities, NASCAR doing something that actually worked, and having enough sense when it did work to decide to do it next year, although they didn't have enough sense to do it in the chase.
True. So what do you expect this weekend in Kansas? How do you expect the racing to go down?
I expect that in lieu, I mean, the problem with these tracks, Charlotte's one, Kansas is another, Chicago, where the chase started, that in lieu of there being a lot of battles for the lead, track position will be important. And to me, the most interesting thing watching NASCAR right now is since every car that takes the lead right off the bat, that slips free of the rest of the field, pulls away, I always get fascinated on, well, if you were up front, how bad could you be and still pull away? You know, you know, like for instance, if Danica Patrick was up front, would she pull away? You know, if I mean, that's actually genuinely interesting when I watch the races. Now, generally, the people who get the top position are the ones that went in the pits and came out. But last week there was an awful time for Matt Kenseth because he was dominating the races early, and all of a sudden he got back in the pack, and his car couldn't do anything. And you see a lot of cars where, oh, in traffic, I can't drive this thing. And so, so I expect that Kansas will be an interesting race and a good story because dramatic things will happen because the chase format makes it where that generally does. And I think there's a possibility that there will be, you know, a string of wrecks near the end, and then there might be some strategic calls that have to do it. But one of the things that I wrote in a column this week is that every week one guy pulls away. Couldn't just one week we have two, you know?
That would be nice.
And so, yeah, so I don't, you know, I think that now soon there's going to be a race at Talladega a week from Sunday. There's going to be a race at Martinsville, and I think there's going to be excellent races. I think that Phoenix is not subject to this aerodynamic problem they have, where the car that's in clean air while the other cars are buffeted by turbulence pulls away. Short tracks and flat tracks don't have that problem. They sometimes have other problems, but I don't think you could mess up racing at Martinsville, you know, if you tried. And not that NASCAR hasn't, but I think that there's going to be some good races between now and the end of the year. But you know, the whole idea is the cars are caught in turbulence. Well, if you take some of the downforce off the back and you have those spoilers not creating so much turbulence, obviously it makes it where they can race better in proximity to each other. But you know, about half the tracks almost are intermediate tracks. When you add in the similar, most of them are a mile and a half, but the ones at California and Michigan are 2 miles. But those tracks are sort of in the same grouping. And NASCAR has got to, for the future of the sport, for its popularity, for improving attendance, for raising TV ratings, they've got to make the racing better at those tracks.
Who do you like this weekend at Kansas?
Well, it's an interesting thing because you're tempted to go with the guys who are the best at this track. But the last 2 weeks, we've had runaway victories by drivers who have never before won at the track they're on. And so Chicago is a almost sister track, just slightly different. And Denny Hamlin won there just a few weeks ago. So I think he's someone you must consider. I also think that since Matt Kenseth not likely needs a victory to move on, I think that if you were going to look at the likelihood of Cinderella stories, and gosh, no, we love them, Matt Kenseth winning this weekend, and he'll be, you know, he'll put a lot of effort into it, and Dale Jr. winning at Talladega. Both of them have a real long shot of advancing into the round of 8 if they don't get a win because of doing badly in the first race, which Harvick pulled off in the first round. So I have a feeling that I think I'm going to pick Kenseth.
Matt
Because
Kenseth.
it's funny how Cinderella stories happen in NASCAR.
Monty, we appreciate it. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week. The full Monty.
As for qualifying ongoing at Kansas, Brad Keselowski, 195.503. Carl Edwards, 195.454. Then it's Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Jeff Gordon, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle. And those are the 12 into the final round of qualifying, and it may be over by now. And if so, then it's Keselowski winning the pole for Sunday's race at Kansas. And indeed it is. Indeed it is. As I speak, the final results have just popped in. It is Keselowski winning the pole at Kansas. Love hearing Monty's stuff. It's so genuine and so unique. Love his take on things. Coming up, Coach Mike Houston from the Citadel. We'll chat with him about their game coming up against Sanford as the Bulldogs try to go 3-0 in the Southern Conference early on this season. And we'll update some high school football scores for you as those begin to pop up around the states. And let's see, South Carolina and Vanderbilt guys tomorrow. We talked about Clemson and Boston College, South Carolina and Vandy. And you would think, boy, this is a great game for Sean Elliott to start his head coaching career, but not so fast, my friend. I mean, Vandy's not impressive record-wise, but defensively, I mean, really, Western Kentucky has a great offense. They managed 14 points against them. Georgia scored 31, Austin Peay only 7. They held Ole Miss to 27. That's not a bad performance there. They beat Middle Tennessee last time out, giving up 13. New defensive coordinator in town in Nashville. He's doing a heck of a job.
Yeah, he is. I think either one of these teams, Corn, they got to get the lead. South Carolina must get a working margin because, if anything, Vandy will turn the football over if you turn them one-dimensional and have them to pass. Their quarterback right now sort of telegraphs where he's throwing the football, which is why Georgia had such a broke out of that game, because they had a short field because Vandy was playing them defensively tough. So the big key for South Carolina is they got to run the football, and that means that Brandon Wiles, who's had a few weeks of rest, will have to be the bell cow tomorrow.
Well, this is what you want when you get a new defensive coordinator after having a bad defensive year the year before. They've improved in practically every defensive category. Their scoring is down about 17 points a game. Their total defense yards allowed down about 95 yards per game. Fewer first downs allowed. Rushing yardage, 54 yards per game fewer. 41 yards per game fewer in passing. At this point in the season, they've allowed 10 fewer touchdowns. I mean, across the board, their defense is just much improved. Now, it could be the scheme, it could be the coaching, it could be just the maturity of the guys on defense having played. Really, last year, you might remember, they played a lot of freshmen throughout their team, especially on defense. We're going to talk about the Citadel coming up after the break here on the Sports Talk. Back we are here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this football Friday night. High school football, college football coming up, and, of course, NFL football coming up on a Sunday. So another big weekend of football for you to enjoy as we continue our coverage around the state. Big game coming up this weekend for the Citadel Bulldogs, who took care of Wofford at home last weekend to go to 2-0 in the SoCon for the first time since 2012. We welcome in Coach Mike Houston to Sports Talk. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
We're fine. I hesitate to tell you this, but last week, two in-state coaches we had on the program both lost. So we hope not to put the Sports Talk jinx on you tonight, all right?
You can't be jinxing us like that now.
No. We're going to do our best to give you a boost and not a jinx. First of all, a terrific win last week over the Wofford Terriers at your place. Your thoughts on breaking that long losing streak in Wofford?
Well, I couldn't be more proud of the effort of our players, and I thought the coaches did a really good job of having them prepared, but the kids played lights out. Just, we wanted to be very physical at the point of contact in that ball game, and I thought we were very well on offense, and I thought we, played just very fast and disciplined and physical on defense. And so, a great win, and, we didn't talk about the streak or whatever during the week, and the only time I mentioned it was Friday night when I was talking to the team, and I told them, I said, that streak or nothing else is going to help Wofford or us tomorrow afternoon, between 2 and 4:30 or 5. I said, all that matters is what you do on that field, so let's, go take care of business. And they did that.
What did you like most about your offensive execution against the Terriers?
Well, I thought we were very balanced. I thought we did a good job of throwing the football, good job protecting Dominique. And I thought that took a little bit of heat off of our offense as far as the safeties having to play maybe a little looser. And then I thought we were able to play very fast up front on the line of scrimmage at the offensive line, which, allowed us to, run the ball very effectively. You put all that together with the fact that we did not turn the ball over, and it was a good offensive day.
Yeah, it was. He was 7 of 10 passing, 125 yards, which, by your standards, by, recent Citadel standards, that's pretty good throwing day.
That's a big
day. Did you see something?
Yeah,
it is.
Well,
did you see something going in about Wofford's defense where you thought you could throw the ball successfully?
Well, it's probably just as much looking at last year's film and the fact that we did not do that, and we did not get them backed off of us at any point in time during the day, and it just made the going pretty tough. So we went in with a mindset that we're going to try to stay pretty balanced and keep everything mixed up. And I thought that Coach Thompson did a great job of calling the game with that in mind.
Will that be a new offensive thought of yours as you move forward, the idea of maybe showing the pass early and completing some passes to force defenses to back up a little bit?
It's a week-to-week thing. I mean, obviously we want to be able to throw the ball effectively when we want to. And so it's something we want in our game plan, and I like having that balance. But at the same time, it comes down, really to what we're getting as far as a look on the other side of the ball. So, we'd like to.
Yeah. What do you expect to see from Sanford's defense tomorrow?
Well, we're expecting a similar scheme to what we saw last year from with a bear front, which is going to, it's going to cover our offensive lineup. Of course, they've got Michael Pierce there in the middle. We lined up, as a zero nose on our center. He's preseason defensive player of the year in the SoCon and preseason All-American and a legitimate NFL prospect. So we'll have our hands full with him, and he's got a bunch of good players around him, and probably the best secondary in FCS football, or what some people say. So it's going to be a real challenge for us tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to double team him, or do you leave Bednar to try to handle him one-on-one?
I'd say we're probably going to put 2, 3, however many we can get on him. So, we're going to have to be able to neutralize him there in the middle to get going.
Yeah. Samford has a team that has gotten better through its years in the SoCon, and they have talent, as you mentioned. What about on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I said this earlier in the week. I sit here and I always star, the outstanding players on each team. And you look up and I've got their entire offense starred, and I've got a couple of their backups starred. It's just they have as much talent at skill positions as any team in our league. And I mean anybody. It starts with their quarterback, Michael Eubank, 6'6", 250, redshirt senior, transfer from Arizona State. I think he's playing much better than he was a year ago. And a lot of that has to do with the fact he has a veteran, very big, very athletic offensive line coming back, and he has weapons all over the place. He has, three receivers that, any of the three would be a number one on any team in the SoCon. And then, two quality backs that either one would start on any team in the SoCon. So, they have weapons all over the place. They've got a good offensive line and a great leader on the field.
All right, so you broke a 16-game losing streak to Wofford last week, so that kind of goes down as a first for you at the Citadel. Now you're facing a team that Citadel's never beaten. Now, you've only played them 3 times, but still you're 0-3, so a chance for another first for you.
Well, now, I think that they beat them in 14 in Charleston. I'm pretty sure, but it's been a while since Citadel's won down here in Birmingham, and maybe that's where we haven't gotten a victory in the series. But it would be a tough game, down here at their place. It's a big game for them too, so I know they'll be ready. I think Coach Hatcher has done a great job in his first year at Sanford, and he has them playing, with a lot of energy, and I think that playing better on offense than they did a year ago. Yeah,
what I saw was Coach Hatcher is 3-0 against the Citadel.
I
so
got you.
You can you can pin the first loss on him.
Well, he's a good football coach. He started out as a D2 guy like I did at Valdosta State, and then was at Georgia Southern, and then at Murray State before getting up back to Sanford. So he's done a good job everywhere he's been, and he's done a good job at Sanford in his first year. And so I look forward to squaring off against him tomorrow.
Well, listen, good luck tomorrow afternoon in Birmingham against Sanford, and hopefully the Sports Talk Kiss will work instead of the Sports Talk Jinx, and we'll talk to you soon about another win.
I got you. I hope so. We're looking forward to it. We got a big bunch of fans down here, so I know it'll be a good environment. So take care. Thanks for having me on.
You guys, thank you very much. All right, Coach Mike Houston from El Cid. Appreciate him joining us tonight here on the program. And other games tomorrow involving teams not called Gamecocks and Tigers. Let's see, we've got Howard at South Carolina State tomorrow. Western Carolina will be at Wofford. Charleston Southern goes to Presbyterian. And Newberry's at Carson Newman. Clark Atlanta's at Benedict. Tusculum at North Greenville. And Limestone heads up to Brevard. So there you go with the schedule around the state tomorrow. Let's see, Furman has the weekend off, and Coastal Carolina has the weekend off. And Coach Mike Houston doing his thing at the Citadel, implementing that run-first offense, averaging 320-some-odd yards per game. And they're scoring points. They lead the Southern Conference in second in the league in scoring at about 34 points per game. So, slowly, guys, he's getting his players in place. He's got an excellent quarterback to run his offense, and it's starting to kick in. Beating Wofford the way they did, that was a pretty sound win for them, 39-12. I think that's an indication of the progress they're making. I know they had a little bit of a bump in the road. They lost to Georgia Southern, but, of course, Georgia Southern is no longer an FCS team. They've moved up. And then they lost to Charleston Southern. And Coach Chadwell's done wonders there, but to bounce back with that big, impressive win over Wofford, very positive sign for the Bulldogs. We're back with more sports talk in a moment. Insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, and state and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you plan to burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. Couple of notes here for you. First of all, one thing we won't do here, as you well know, when we have coaching searches, we're not going to throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall to see what sticks. Okay, we'll let other people constantly throw names and things like that out there. But one thing I'm noticing, the trend on the recruiting, on the various websites, the trend of covering this is, I'll give you an example. For example, A.C. Berkey is interested in the South Carolina head coaching job.
Who's that?
According to sources I talked to today, A.C. Berkey is interested in the South Carolina head coaching job, according to the multiple sources I've been on the phone with today. These sources tell me that he can put together an excellent staff and he can recruit. Well, A.C. Berkey, he coached 167 games over 25 years, and he won 29% of them. And my point is that every young coach at a mid-major school who's having some sort of success, who's aspiring to move up, is going to be, is going to be interested in the South Carolina job. If you're hungry to move into the SEC and coach in a big-time program in a big-time setting, and you're not there yet, and you're doing a decent job at that mid-major level, you're going to be interested in the South Carolina job. So what you have to do, of course, is peel through all of that till you get to the meat where you've got genuine interest both ways. And I can tell you from a true source today that Ray Tanner has had no contact with any prospect and has not asked for any permission to talk to anybody. I think that was floating around out there too as it pertained to Kirby Smart. He may eventually reach out to Kirby Smart. He may eventually reach out to A.C. Berkey, who I think's been dead for about 30 years. But my point is that so many people want to rush this. There is no rush here for South Carolina because more than likely the eventual next coach at South Carolina is coaching somewhere right now, I would think. I mean, It's not going to be Mac Brown.
Nope.
It's not going to be one of the talking heads sitting in a studio somewhere who, was fired from his previous job or retired, or whatever the case may be. More than likely, the next coach at South Carolina is coaching a team somewhere this weekend, unless they have an off week.
That's correct, sir. That is correct, sir. But I would assume.
Well, I'm glad you agree. Let me give another. I want to do another update.
Okay.
According to sources I've talked to today,
can't recruit a lick.
Bill Klicka. Bill Klicka is a candidate, is interested in the South Carolina job. I'm told by my sources he can put together an excellent staff. He's a terrific recruiter. He coached at Fairleigh Dickinson, and he won 30% of his games over, let's see, how many years was that? Over 25 years.
But I understand.
What I did was I pulled up the list of the losingest coaches in college football history.
Oh.
But apparently the losingest coach in college football history is A.C. Berkey from 1924 to 1950.
All right.
A total of 25 years. He went 41 and 110 with 16 ties.
Well, at least he showed he could keep a job. No, but the funny thing is,
they were a lot more patient back in the 20s and 30s than they are today
because they weren't paying anything. The interesting thing is, though, the negative is always going to be thrown in the geography direction. All of them, let's erase all of that. Good recruiter can put together a great staff, but, lived in Hawaii for 30 years and might not know the recruiting territory in the Southeast. That'll be the negative.
Do you know who has? This will shock you. Maybe you know this. Do you know who owns the record for the most losses in the history of college football?
I want to think it's somebody who won a lot of games and stayed in the business a long time. Let's say Joe Paterno.
You know what? You are your criteria there is dead on. Dead on. This guy coached for 55 years. He coached 548 games. Amos Alonzo Staggs Sr. 314 wins, 199 losses, and 35 ties.
You didn't
back
want to
in
go
the day.
for two.
Let's see who's still alive who has a lot of losses the Gamecocks might want to offer the job to. Watson Brown, he had 197 losses.
Well, his brother's interested.
Mike Price, 183 losses.
Yeah, the Roll Tide.
Jimmy Laycock, 165 losses. Yeah. Again, all those, according to my sources, could put together an excellent staff and love to recruit. Whether you are a Carolina Gamecock or you bleed Clemson orange, all South Carolina college football fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location on USC's campus. And now that they have their name on the baseball stadium, they'll probably put an ATM or something over there. And a Clemson office coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. I want to remind you once again, insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, state and national parks. You can help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. Couple of notes here. USC Board of Trustees met today. Ray Tanner telling them that Steve Spurrier will be paid through the end of the year. That means he will get the full $4 million on his salary this year. Asked why Spurrier was getting paid when most workers who leave their jobs would not receive paychecks. Tanner said, quote, all circumstances are different, especially in collegiate athletics with major college coaches. Tanner talking to GoGamecocks.com. Pay raises for the pair of assistant coaches promoted have not yet been determined, according to Tanner, who also said the school expects to lose $2 million because of the game being moved to LSU. He did not say how the department plans to make up that shortfall. All right, Clemson parking. The Clemson folks say the grass lots should be accessible for tomorrow's game. The paved lots will open as scheduled at 8. Grass lots will not be available until 11, and they've tried to get it all dried out during the week. The most damaged lots, lots 1, 2, and 13, they'll all be operational on Saturday. So be aware of that. And high school football tonight. Got some scores floating in from around the state. Chester and Broome are 7-7. Blythewood is up 14-7 in its game against, I believe they're playing Lexington tonight, are they not? I think they are. Hammond 14-0 over Florence Christian. Airport 21-0 over Gilbert. It's Spring Valley 20, Lugoff Elgin 0. And Marlboro County leading its game 7-6. Not exactly sure who they're playing. Darlington and Lakewood are scoreless. Abbeville, this would be a little bit of a surprise, leading Batesburg-Leesville 10-0. Blythewood leading its game 14-7. Ainer 6, Waccamaw 0. Midland Valley in its game tied at 7. Airport leading Gilbert, already said that. Eau Claire leading Columbia High 14-0. Columbia High has scored 8 points in 7 games this year. All right, that'll do it. Don't forget the scoreboard shows later tonight. Our coverage of USC and Clemson tomorrow at SportsTalkSC.com. Thank you, K-Mac. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, Steakman. Have a great night, everybody. A great weekend. Join us for Sports Talk Monday night.